If you think your new smartphone is small, wait until you see what's cooking in the lab. We're looking at a massive shift beyond silicon that could pack 1,000 times more power into a chip the size of a fingernail. It's called molecular electronics, and it's about to turn the entire industry down to the atomic level. For decades, we've relied on silicon to make gadgets faster, but we're officially hitting a physical wall where we can't shrink parts anymore without them melting or leaking power. And molecular electronics solves this by ditching bulky silicon transistors for single molecules, the tiny building blocks of everything. This isn't a minor upgrade. It is a path to devices that are denser, faster, and more energy efficient than anything we've ever seen. What do you think about this, John?
This is exciting for me because this is really cool because we talk about Moore's Law, we talk about transistors all the time, and it's just crazy. So just to kind of set the stage here, for decades, the semiconductor industry has driven performance increases by essentially shrinking silicon transistors, which is embodied in Moore's Law. And that predicts that transistor count roughly doubling every few years. But as why can't I say transistors this morning? Approach atomic scales, gate length under 15 nanometers, they encounter some quantum effects. For example, electron tunneling. And they also have fabrication limits that make further scaling exponentially harder and costlier. So molecular electronics offers kind of a bottom-up alternative, using molecules themselves as functional electronic elements such as switches, diodes, and transistors through quantum behavior rather than relying on bulk silicon structures. So, sounds like magic. How does this work? So, where conventional transistors control current flow by modulating charge in a semiconductor channel, molecular electronic devices leverage quantum tunneling and molecular energy states to regulate that current. So each molecule can act as an individual logic element or switch. And because molecules are orders of magnitude smaller than even the most advanced silicon transistors, the integration densities could theoretically reach around 10 to the 14th power devices per square centimeter. Putting that into context, roughly 1,000 times greater than today's best silicon chips. But achieving this requires precise assembly of molecules and reliable electrical contacts to electrodes at ultra small scales. Without getting into anything anymore, what do you think about this, Craig? Is this magic? Is this legit? Or what are your thoughts?
I was sneezing earlier, so I hope it's legit because we are hitting a wall with what we know with silicon, because traditional chips are reaching their limit about 3 nanometers, like you said, and molecules are naturally, 1 to 5 nanometers apart or nanometers wide. So we're going any smaller, we're starting to make physics breaks. So molecules are naturally smaller. So, it makes sense to transition to this. There's a couple of things that, it starts to lean towards, is biology better than, tech? Or is this, as we start to say, okay, this, if we can make these things natural, and we talk about data storage in biology and whatnot. But I like to think of this as a standard computer chip, like a city built out of bricks, like silicon. And molecular electronics is like replacing those bricks with small Lego pieces that are only a few atoms wide. So you take a normal brick and you replace it with something that's only a few atoms wide, and now you can build so much more stuff in that same space. So you make much smaller chips or much more powerful chips. So this could enable the next real wave of revolution. And if the power is down to the level they're talking about, we could see a huge dynamic change, because let's face it, data centers are costing so much money these days to build and power and whatnot. If we could see this stuff hitting it in the next 5 years, but it looks like it's going to be 5 to 15 depending on where you are, that this would make the power consumption go down and the power go way up, and all of a sudden they're not $500 billion to build this data center, and it's not you don't need a nuclear power plant to run it. So that changes a lot of things. So I'm looking forward to that because, these parts are so small, they use quantum tunneling, like you said, to move electricity. So they require less power that way. Your phone could theoretically have the processing power of today's massive data centers and instant health diagnostics. A single molecule sensor could detect a single viral particle of pollutant in your home instantly. Like, think of those things. Like, the concept is great. Now, I don't know if this is an illusion. We really have to start seeing more tests and stuff. What are you thinking about this, John?
Yeah, I'm loving this. So, like, right now, what are we at? 2 nanometer process nodes for silicon chips, I think, which is like, but it's a new process. It's the newest process through TSMC. So, they're like, even at 3 nanometer process nodes, like, they're hitting physical scaling limits because not just in size, but reliability and energy efficiency. I don't know if you follow chips, which we talk about them sometimes, but like, they're not getting the gains that they used to get from chip to chip nowadays with these new processes. And so that's just showing us that these limits, Moore's law and all this stuff, are really starting to break. And so molecular electronics, it doesn't just shrink the components, it essentially fundamentally changes the physics by which they operate. And so, like, with silicon MOSFETs, classical charge transport dominates, right? So molecular devices, they exploit, again, we're talking quantum, right? But we're talking quantum tunneling and discrete energy levels of molecules. And that enables switching and control at the atomic dimensions. So it's really cool because the way that they're going to do this is through the way that they integrate this is it's something called interface engineering. And that's going to help them to align molecules on electrodes and exploit self-assembly techniques that allow the molecules to organize themselves into ordered arrays with atomic precision. What that sounds like to me is another huge manufacturing device that one company is probably going to be selling whoever decides or whoever gets to that first. Because right now, I think there's only one company that makes the chip manufacturing machines, right? And it's based in somewhere in Europe.
I believe that is true, yes.
Yeah. So I'm super excited for this.
Yeah, the failure rate on those really small 2 to 3 nanometer chips are much higher than the other ones just because of the size. The catch right now is the heat. Most organic molecules hate heat and will literally fall apart above 200 degrees, while current chip making involves temperatures over 400 degrees. There are also concerns about reliability. If your brain is made up of individual molecules, what happens if one atoms move out of place? Keeping these billions of tiny connections stable over years of use is, potential monumental engineering hurdle. Timeline-wise, expect to see specialized sensors in the next 1 to 5 years and hybrid molecule silicon chips within 5 to 15 years. These will initially be a high-end enterprise tech and for medical labs, think NASA and that kind of thing, but it aims eventually lower cost by using chemical assembly instead of multi-billion-dollar factories. So it might be way cheaper to manufacture these things, among other things. So I'm loving where this is going. The power output is significant. The destructive interference drops by over 100%. I'm excited.
Yeah. And just to put this into context, historical context, this isn't a new idea. So in the 1970s and 80s, scientists like Ari Avram and Mark Ratner, they proposed that individual molecules could act as electronic components. But the problem is that the technology took decades to catch up to their theory. And so modern microscopy, nanofabrication, those new technologies, they now make it possible to do this, which is why we're talking about it now.
So if you're into this kind of stuff, there's a huge article that covers all of it over on torontostarts.com. Go check it out. The link will be in the podcast. While silicon has had a great run, the future of computing is going to be grown in a lab, not just etched in a factory. So do you think we're ready to trust our data to individual atoms, or is this all just a lab dream? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll be watching this atomic scale race very closely. What do you got going on, John? This is
Yeah.
stuff that's going out in the next week or so.
Yeah, so we've got some events at the Toronto Business Development Center. I'm doing some lunch and learns in person there. It's a great organization, great incubator. And then February, what date is the Startup Drinks, Craig?
I closed that, so I'm not
Okay.
sure.
It's
February
sometime
19th, I believe.
February 19th. But have a look at startupdrinks.com, startupdrinksto.com for that event and other events. Yeah, if you need some help with government funding, SHRED, or any other grants, reach out to me on LinkedIn. But if you're interested in AI automation workflows or you need help with your business, what can they do, Craig?
Well, we've got lots of stuff going on over at flowgrammar.ca where we help businesses implement AI and business automation so they can scale faster and more reliable, get more leads, grow faster. We also have a growing community over at flowgrammars.ca where we do Flow Grammar Cafe, we do live build events, we do demo events, we get the community together online and in person several times a month to show and demo and support anybody who's trying to do this, learn automation, end-to-end AI agent building. So check all that out. We have a series of events called Flow Grammar Cafe. The next one's February 6th, March 6th, and April 2nd. We do those right now in partnership with Workhouse, and those are full day drop-in headphones, laptop, and work. And we'll have some experts on site that can help you troubleshoot. And we all kind of do a little walkthrough in the afternoon about what you're working on, and show us what you're working on and stuff. And it's really cool. So check all that out over at flowgrammar.ca and flowgrammars.ca. And coming soon, and you can sign up for this now, flowgramming.space, an AI agent and workflow marketplace where people can buy and sell agents or workflows. So if you're building agents and don't know what to do with them, where to sell them, go over there and check that out. Again, flowgramming.space. Or if you're building workflows, or if you want agents or workflows built, you can go over there and buy them. We have some interesting guarantees, and it's coming soon, so you can get your name on the waiting list right now. That's all we got going on, John. For everything else, go to torontostarts.com. I don't even think I mentioned it that whole time. Thanks everyone for watching. All the information about CES, and these interesting things. Any last words, John?
No. Check out our next episode. We're going to be talking about the weird stuff at CES. So,
all right, everyone. Thanks for watching.